By now, you all know that Texas brought in the number one recruiting class in the country in 2025. But which of those guys will make an instant impact? We've got some bold predictions for the freshman horns on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. It's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Shout out to you everydayers as well. Really appreciate you tuning in. We will continue our fall camp preview and give a few schedule updates for both Longhorn baseball and basketball a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the kids, the true freshmen on the 2025 Texas football team. You know, the guys who comprise the number one recruiting class in the nation this year? Yeah, those guys. The Horns brought in 25 new faces. 5 of them were composite 5 stars. 14 of them were composite 4 stars. The other 6 were 3 stars. Don't sleep on those 6, by the way. If you're a Texas football fan, you know about the 3 stars. Colt McCoy was a 3-star at one point. Devondre Sweat was a 3-star out of high school. Gunnar Helm, too. Don't sleep on those guys. They can end up being some of the best players in this class. And I think we all expect most, if not all, of those 25 guys to make some sort of impact at some point in their Texas careers. But today's question is, which of those guys will make their presence known and felt right away? I'm going to give my top 4 freshmen in terms of who I think will play the biggest roles for the Longhorns in their first seasons in Austin. And I promise I'm not giving you 4 5 stars here. Just 4 guys based on what I've heard and who I've talked to that I think are going to be asked to be key contributors to Texas football this season. Starting with wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon. This one may surprise y'all. Texas brought in 4 blue chip wide receivers in this class, and of the 4, McCutcheon was the lowest rated coming out of high school. Sorry for the pause. Heard a motorcycle outside. Wasn't sure if that was loud enough for y'all to pick up. Hopefully it wasn't. Of the 4 receivers that Texas brought in what was by far and away the best wide receiving class any school brought in, McCutcheon, again, the lowest rated coming out of high school. You had the 5-star Khalid Lockett, 5-star Michael Terry III, the high 4-star Jamie French. All 3 of those guys got more hype in high school, but McCutcheon is the guy who stood out the most during the spring. And according to multiple sources that I've talked to, he's the furthest along in his development, and he's the closest to cracking the rotation at wide receiver. Now, Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson, they generally keep a pretty tight rotation at receiver. They've got a small circle of trust at that spot. And, of course, the Longhorns have Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore and Emmett Mosley. I think all 3 of those guys are ahead of McCutcheon on the depth chart. So we're not talking about a day 1 starter here with Dalen McCutcheon, but Texas is looking for a number 4 wide receiver. And over the course of a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 game season, you're going to play more than 3 guys. Horns looking for a number 4. It could be Dalen McCutcheon, the 4-star from Lucas Lovejoy. Don't sleep on him just because the other 3 guys were higher graded. All right, number 2 freshman that I think will make the biggest impact this year. Offensive tackle Nick Brooks. Brooks, unfortunately, made some headlines for the wrong reasons earlier in the offseason. That was off the field, but on the field, every headline this guy has made during his brief Texas career has been incredibly positive. One of the standouts for Texas during spring ball, 6'7", 349 pounds. I mean, he stands out with that size alone. A 4-star out of Georgia, only the 25th ranked tackle in this class. So again, not a guy at the very top of the recruiting grades of all of the dudes that Texas brought in. But I think as of right now, from what I've heard, Nick Brooks might be the third best tackle on this team already. Of course, only 2 guys start. I don't think Nick Brooks is the next Kelvin Banks where he's in there for game 1 of his college career. But if something were to happen to Trevor Gooseby against Ohio State, loud knock on wood, I think there's a very good chance that Nick Brooks is the guy getting the call off the bench. Like if he has a strong fall camp and builds off what he did in the spring, I'm telling you, he could be that guy. Andre Kojo, maybe he'd be the go-to guy at right tackle if something were to happen to Brandon Baker. But, man, Nick Brooks could be a very big part of the 2025 season. He's going to get playing time regardless of how healthy the guys in front of him are. But if something happens to one of Texas's tackles, the Horns might be turning to a young pup, and he might play a huge role into what happens with the Longhorns here in 2025. Let's go over to the defense. Now we got to go to the 5 stars here. I can't be this far off the beaten path. We'll start with Justice Terry. Man, have y'all seen this guy? Let's see if we can pull up the screen share real quick. Did y'all see this picture of Justice Terry a couple of months ago? This guy is sculpted by the gods. I mean, this looks AI. Unbelievable that an 18-year-old can look like that. 5-star out of high school, number 2 defensive lineman in the country. I think 12th ranked player overall in the class of 2025. I mean, all of those things led you to believe that Justice Terry was going to be playing at a different level. But, dude, I mean, that's not a lot of people look like that at that age. Hell, not a lot of people look like that at any age. Dude's a monster. One of the biggest recruiting wins for Texas in the Steve Sarkisian era. Sounds like it took a bit of time in the spring for him to figure things out, but as spring ball progressed, he started to figure it out. And when he did, he figured it out. The only thing that scares me a bit, not in terms of Justice Terry, but in terms of like having him on this list, he's probably more of an edge right now, listed at 268 pounds, a little bit smaller than your traditional defensive tackle in this conference. And your edge room is stacked. Colin Simmons and Trey Moore and Ethan Burke and Colton Vasek. May be tough for him to get some playing time early on. But, man, I mean, Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski, we'll talk about this more in our next segment. Those guys haven't been scared to put freshmen in on defense if they can wreck a game. Ant Hill, Colin Simmons, anyone? I mean, those guys, basically from the moment they stepped foot on campus, were huge parts of what the Longhorns were doing on defense. If Justice Terry is that type of player, he's going to force his way onto the field regardless of his age and classification. If he's the guy he's cracked up to be, they're not going to be able to leave him on the sideline. So Justice Terry, yeah, I don't want to be weird by showing this picture again, but my goodness, that doesn't get you excited for what that guy can be for the next 3 to 4 years, probably 3. I don't know what will. And last but not least, maybe saving the best for last, the top-ranked recruit that Texas signed in the top-ranked class, the 2-sport phenom, Jonah Williams. Even though he missed spring ball because he was playing baseball, the dude he's just too talented to leave off the field. He added at least 5 pounds of muscle since the end of baseball season to get his body right for fall camp and for the upcoming season. He's just a supreme talent. He's going to be a factor. He's definitely going to be a factor on special teams. I doubt Sark and Jeff Banks would trust any true freshman enough to make him the starting punt returner. But if anyone could do it, it's Jonah Williams. He was elite at that in high school. And I don't know what exactly he's going to do on special teams, but he is going to be a big piece, maybe the biggest special teams factor of any of these freshmen that the Horns brought in. You know, at safety, it's a similar conversation with Justice Terry. Like, you've got Michael Taff at safety, Derek Williams Jr. coming off of injury, Jelani McDonald. Like, there's competition and there's talent in front of them. You've got Xavier Filsamy and Jordan Johnson-Rebel there too. So it won't be easy, but I think he's another one of those guys that's just too good to not play. I think he's going to force his way on the field. I know baseball's a different sport, but how can you not be thrilled with what you saw from Jonah Williams on the diamond a few months ago? And yeah, that type of athlete, man, to see what he did as a freshman for the SEC champion Texas Longhorn baseball team, I think he's going to bring some of that same juice and energy and talent to the football field too. He's going to be a big factor for this Texas team in year 1. So there you go. There's my list of 4. Who did I miss? Comment below with your thoughts. Look, Lance Jackson, Cade Phillips, Khalil Lockett, Khalil Lockett, excuse me. Those guys were honorable mentions. There's 3 or 4 more names that you could throw into the honorable mention category as well. But for the sake of time, I only wanted to give you 4 today. don't be surprised if you hear those guys' names called on the TV broadcast a few times this year. The Horns are in a great spot. They don't need any of these guys to start right away and be great right away. But hey, good competition never hurt anybody. Those guys are going to push for playing time. And again, a bunch of these dudes are just too talented to not be out there. So this class, this 2025 class, is going to be heard of a lot in 2025. Can't wait to see how they fare 36 days from now in Columbus. And then, of course, moving forward throughout the year. All right, we're down to 5 days. 5 days away from the start of Texas fall camp. We will continue our position-by-position preview. Talk about the biggest storylines on the Texas defensive line coming up next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for today's video sponsor. Shout out to Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings, planning a big purchase, maybe growing your family, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full control and visibility over all of your finances. This is no ordinary budgeting app. This is a complete financial command center. All of your bank accounts, all of your credit cards, all of your investments, all in one place. So you can actually start building wealth instead of just managing your money, because everything you need is right there at your fingertips. You no longer need 4, 5, 6, 10 budgeting apps anymore for all of your cards and accounts. No, with Monarch Money, it's all in one place. So take control of your finances with our friends at Monarch Money. And how about this? If you use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com, you're going to get 50% off your first year. Again, monarchmoney.com is the website. Locked On College, the promo code for half off your first year. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Happy Friday to everyone tuned in. If you're listening or watching on the weekend, hope y'all are enjoying the weekend. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Texas fall camp starts next week, July 30th. That is 5 days from now. And each day leading up to the 30th, we've been taking a deep dive look at a different position room on the Texas roster. We've spent the first 4 days of this week talking about the offense. Now we shift things over to the defense, starting up front with the D-line. What are the biggest questions for the Longhorn defensive line going into camp? Number one, well, it feels pretty obvious. How are the transfers? You brought in 5 of them. Are they any good? Cole Brevard, Travis Shaw, and Hero Canoe, those guys were all here for spring ball, so the players and coaches kind of know what they've got from them to an extent. But Murad Watson and Levon Johnson were both post-spring additions. They've been going through workouts and summer conditioning, but they're yet to suit up for a real practice here in the ATX. Murad Watson was a freshman All-American last year at Syracuse. Steve Sarkisian talked about him being a potential surprise player for the Longhorn D this year. We actually played that clip earlier this week. Those are good things. You know, Cole Brevard started 23 games at Purdue, more than 1,000 career snaps for him. Travis Shaw has more than 600 snaps under his belt at North Carolina. Hero Canoe appeared in 15 games for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes last season. So these guys have played. It's not like they're all true freshmen coming in and like you have no idea what they are. All 5 of them are coming in from Power 5 schools, but they haven't done it here. And to call a spade, like none of them have the resumes that lead you to believe there's a guarantee that they're the next T'Vondre Sweat or Byron Murphy or Alfred Collins. You would love a couple of these guys to turn into those types of players because we know how impactful they've been for Texas the last 2 seasons, but we just don't know. And honestly, we're not going to find out how good any of them really are until August 30th. But the question for camp is, well, which guys separate themselves from the others? And which 2 guys win the starting jobs at defensive tackle? I think Cole Brevard feels like a lock, more experience, a longer resume than anybody else. Maybe he's not. Murad Watson, again, the freshman All-American from a year ago. Maybe he's your number 2. Don't forget about Alex January and Melvin Hills, the returning guys. Like, D-tackle is going to rotate a lot. It always does. And even when Texas had some bona fide stars at that spot, they were still keeping a pretty heavy rotation there. But you know, you still need guys that you turn to. Even if you are playing 6 or 7 of them every week, you need guys that you can rely upon in the fourth quarter of a close game to step up and make some plays for you. Who are those guys? Maybe we'll find out during camp. We're going to have to find out soon because, again, we all know what's coming up in game 1. Number 2, big question for the defensive line and a storyline to look out for. kind of goes back to our first segment. How much are the freshmen going to play? Justice Terry, 5-star. On some sites, the top-ranked D lineman in the country. Lance Jackson off the edge, another 5-star. Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma, both of those guys 4-stars. Are those guys good enough? And can they prove enough in fall camp to get early playing time? They're all going to play weeks 2 through 4. There's no doubt about that. But can they play in week 1 in the shoe with all that's on the line in the season opener? Justice Terry, it sounds like he's getting more work at edge. Again, only 268 pounds right now. I think he and Lance Jackson are probably good enough to play week 1. I think they'd play week 1 at like 90% of schools in the country. But this school has Colin Simmons and Trey Moore and Ethan Burke and Colton Vasek. It's the best edge room in the country. So are those guys good enough to force their hand to play off the edge? And then look, this group also brought in 5 transfers at defensive tackle. So you talk about Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma, true DTs. Are those guys going to be able to find playing time? Like, they might all be great, but can they prove that they're great enough to play as freshmen? And again, not just in weeks 2 through 4. I said it last segment. If PK and Steve Sarkisian trust you, they don't care how old you are. Anthony Hill, right away, true freshman, out there on the field making plays. Colin Simmons, right away, true freshman, out there on the field making plays. Hell, Manny Muhammad. I know we're talking about the defensive line today, but the point is, like, if you're wearing a Texas uniform, you could play. If you're good enough, you're old enough. That's the mindset and the motto for this Texas defensive staff right now. So those guys are going to have a few weeks to prove their worth and to show why they are worthy of getting some early playing time. And then number 3, another question kind of going into camp, the impact of LaAllen Clark, who has been unbelievable in recruiting and has provided so much value since coming over here. Been a big part of why Texas has had the red-hot recruiting stretch that they've had over the last few weeks. Allen Clark will be coaching the edges. We've seen it in recruiting. Now what will we see in terms of development? Kind of a crazy stat for the Horns. Texas hasn't had a double-digit sack guy since Jackson Jeffcoat in 2013. Mac Brown was still coaching the Longhorns at that point. Think about how much has changed with Texas football since 2013. That is crazy. It's been a long time since Texas has had a double-digit sack artist. Allen Clark has worked with some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He is the personal trainer for Danielle Hunter. He's been a multi-time Pro Bowler in the NFL, now getting it done with the Houston Texans every Sunday. There are a few like high-profile edge rushers who work with Allen Clark as like their personal coach. You think about the talent. I mean, Colin Simmons is the obvious one. He feels like a prime candidate to get double-digit sacks this year. Can he be that guy? Can his game elevate to another level under the tutelage of Allen Clark? Now, Ethan Burke only had 2 sacks last year. Made a lot of plays, especially late, but I think he'd like to have more than 2 this year. I'd like for him to have more than 2 this year. Colton Vasek only had 2 sacks last year. A lot of that's because he was dealing with injuries, but can those guys elevate their games to another level? Trey Moore, can he be good for the entire year, not just good for the second half of the year like he was in 2024? I'm excited to see what Allen Clark can do, man. I mean, if he's half as good of a developer as he has been as a recruiter, then Texas has something pretty good here. But again, these are high-paid NFL edge rushers who like spend their time and money working with Allen Clark on the side. That leads me to believe that he's got a chance to be really, really special. I hope he's here for a long time. I think that guy is a fast riser in the coaching community. And I know he's only been here for a few months and he hasn't even coached a game, but enjoy him while you have him, Longhorn fans. Allen Clark, I think, is the real deal. And I'm excited to hear more about him during camp and, again, see the type of impact that he has with those edge guys, throughout 2025. So there you go. Those are my 3 big questions. Texas has one of the best D-lines in the country. Athlon Sports has him at number 1. Phil Steele, I think, has him at number 9. We'll see what the transfers are, but there's talent, there's experience. And if this group can be what it's been the last 2 seasons, then Texas is going to be a problem on defense once again. All right, we'll take your thoughts. Comment below. What do you think? What are your biggest storylines for the Texas D-line as we head into camp next week? All right, we've been so locked in on football lately that we haven't checked in on some of the other Longhorn sports. We've got some interesting schedule notes for Texas baseball and basketball, and also a baseball transfer who is dominating the Cape Cod Summer League. We'll give you the latest right here on Locked On Longhorns. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, final segment of the week. We're still several months away from the start of the 2026 college baseball season, but one of the first pieces of the Horns schedule was revealed earlier this week. Shouldn't come as a surprise that this announcement sees them playing an early season tournament at a big league park. The Horns will be in Houston February 27th through March 1st, participating in the Astros Foundation Children's Classic. Texas will be one of 6 teams that are there: Baylor, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Coastal Carolina, and UTSA, the other team there. Good news is we're not going to have to play UTSA down there. I'm sure Texas and the Roadrunners will play at some point next year. They usually do, but yeah, my UTSD is still very strong with the way that UTSA regional went. The Austin regional against UTSA, I should say. But Texas will play 3 of the other 5 teams that are down there, and they will open up the tournament going up against Coastal Carolina, who, of course, finished runner-up in the National Championship Series in Omaha this season. It'll be a really good test for the Longhorns. The first ever matchup between the Horns and the Chanticleers, but a good way to get into the season, kind of learn what you are and who you are. Good barometer for Texas baseball early in the year. Texas will play Baylor on Saturday. Of course, a team the Longhorns are very familiar with from their times in the Big 12. And then Ohio State on Sunday. Yeah, Texas, Ohio State, not just a football matchup. We're seeing that in other sports. Saw it in basketball last year as the season opener, obviously twice in one calendar year in football. We're going to see it in baseball next year. So a lot of Longhorn Buckeyes matchups coming up. So there you go. There's your Texas baseball schedule update. Another bit of baseball news. Seton Hall transfer Aiden Robbins, who is coming to Texas, one of the few transfers who committed to Texas that didn't end up signing with an MLB team after the draft a few weeks ago. Robbins is coming. That's good news. He's been having a great run in the Cape Cod Summer League. That's the other good news. A couple of hits, including a 2-run homer and a walk last night for the Harwich Mariners. Second consecutive game with a 2-run homer, hitting over 320 so far, going up against some of the best college pitchers in the country. Big fan of this pickup. His first team All-Big East last year at Seton Hall, 422, 6 homers, 38 RBIs, also had 20 steals as well. He is going to be asked to be a big part of this Texas team this year. And again, I loved the pickup at the time. I love it even more now, seeing what this guy is doing in the Cape Cod League. So hopefully that continues for Texas. Remember that name, Aiden Robbins. And then a little Texas basketball for you. The Longhorns, I think it was yesterday, officially announced their 2025 non-conference schedule. We've got opponents and we've got dates for Sean Miller's first year at the helm. The season opens with a neutral site matchup against Duke. Yeah, neutral site. It's in Charlotte. It's a road game against Duke, just at a bigger venue than Cameron Indoor. So that's about as tough of a test as you could ask for in game one. But what a golden opportunity for Sean Miller to send a message that Texas basketball is in a new era with him running the show. It'd be nice to go beat John Shire and Duke on the road, but yeah, that's tough. After that, the Horns will return home for a 4-game homestand. Lafayette, Fairleigh Dickinson, remember them, Kansas City, and Ryder, not the biggest names out there. Then you've got the trip to Hawaii for the Maui Invitational around Thanksgiving. After that, Virginia comes to town. Then a home game against Southern before another huge road test at UConn on December 12th. And then the non-con sked wraps up with Lemoyne and Maryland. Eastern Shore. Not Maryland, Eastern Shore. So not a lot of great home games in non-conference play this year. Virginia is the only power conference team coming to the Mood before the calendar flips to 2026. Obviously, in the SEC, you got some big programs. You've got some marquee matchups, plenty of tests, and what should be plenty of fun home atmospheres here in the ATX. But hey, even though you don't have a ton of tough home games in non-conference play, basically at Duke, at UConn, some good teams in Maui. The Horns have some good resume opportunities before the calendar flips to 2026 and SEC play gets going. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about this team. I'm trying to temper my expectations because, new coach, but also so many new faces from a year ago. I like the roster that Sean Miller's put together. I think he's done just about everything he realistically could have done, considering the hand that he was dealt. Keeping Tremont Mark and Kendall Weaver and Jordan Pope here. I think those are good things. I like some of the transfer portal additions. Texas went out and got size. They got Cam Heide, who I think is going to be a very good three-point shooter. This team needs that. I do wonder about the point guard position. I don't know if I trust anybody to be like a difference-making true point guard on this team, but Texas's offense did get better down the stretch when Tremont Mark was running the show. Maybe that's the plan. You've got Simeon Wilcher. There's guys. There's talent here. The question is, can Sean Miller put the pieces to the puzzle together and make some magic happen? I thought Texas had some talent last year. Rodney Terry couldn't figure out the best way to maximize that talent. That's why he's no longer the coach in Austin. Can Sean Miller bring in a bunch of guys who have never played together and find a way to get Texas in a better spot in year one? I think the Horns will be a tournament team. Hopefully they're not a play-in team. Hopefully they're in the field of 64. But again, I don't know how much more I can project beyond that. Maybe Sean Miller will do what Jim Schlossnagle did, win the SEC in his first year. Wouldn't that be something? You make some good money on that over at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app. If you're that confident in this team, I'm not going there just yet. But excited. We're getting closer, obviously, to football. That comes first. But basketball right around the corner. And then, of course, Texas baseball, always worth talking about. So that's going to do it for today's show and this week's worth of shows. If you made it this far, number one, thank you. Number two, please remember to like, subscribe, share, rate 5 stars, leave a comment, all of those great things. Can't thank y'all enough for continuing to make Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs, expert picks, analysis, the lock of the day. They've got you covered. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Plenty to get into on Monday as we continue our fall camp preview series. We'll talk more Texas recruiting as well, but that's going to do it for this week. Thank y'all again for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.